How's it going? Let everybody jump on here and then I'll get started. It's going to be some insider trading topics today. And by insider trading, I know a lot of dog trainers watch my content. And so this is going to be more kind of oriented towards them. Some inside baseball type stuff. But as always, if you've got a good question for me, I don't care what it's about in relation to dog training, happy to answer it. So I'll give people a little bit of a chance to jump on here, and then we'll get. All right, guys, and hopefully the internet holds up. I'm not in the most receptive area for internet, so we'll see how the internet goes. Okay, so the internet's not good. I'm already hearing that. Guys, if you can hear me, and see me properly, and there's not a lot of issues, video quality. Okay, I'm gonna move. Ooh, let's see if I can get this internet to perform a little better. Too bad. I wanted to sit there. That was a really nice spot, but I guess I'll have to move somewhere else. We're not going to do a whole stream with crappy internet. How's this? Is this a better performance? It's better now? Okay. I moved closer to the source of the internet, so that's probably why. I guess I'll sit right here. Ooh. Give me 1 sec. Okay, good. I'm hearing that the internet's better now. Good. Okay, give me a second here. I'm just moved to a different spot. So let me light these, what are these things? These things that keep the bugs away. Give me 1 second. All right, let's get after it. Okay, well, that gave everybody time to jump on here. So, like I said, this is going to be some inside baseball when it comes to dog trainers, but a lot of you newer dog trainers or you aspiring dog trainers are going to learn from this. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is enemies in dog training. And the reason I'm going to talk about enemies in dog training is because you see a lot of dog trainers getting obsessed with social media beef, all right, with other dog trainers. And they're always going on about it. They're always fighting with somebody on social media. I'm not talking about like directly fighting. I'm talking about they're always talking about their haters and they're going to prove their haters wrong and so on and so forth. I'm telling you right now, don't get involved in that kind of stuff, because the problem with that is it can motivate you and inspire you in the moment to maybe get out there and train your dogs. But if that's your primary motivation, if you're getting all eaten up about what such and such person said about you, what such and such dog trainer said about you somewhere, and listen, dog training is a small world, right? I've heard, believe me, I hear everything. It all gets back to me. I hear it all. And people say some wild stuff, right? Nasty stuff. And they'll go out of their way to kind of try and screw you or say things about you or diminish you. But if you get obsessed with that stuff, you're going to get distracted from the primary motivation that should be driving you in this business of dog training, right? And that should be actually training dogs. Your enjoyment, your supposed passion for training dogs. That is the only thing that will give you longevity in this business is your true belief, your true desire to train dogs. Not money, not ego. None of that stuff is going to give you any kind of longevity in the dog training business. And I see so many people going on about their haters and this and that, and they're going to shut the haters up. Everything's always a fight. This is a big mistake. This is negativity. And when you cloak yourself in negativity, when you allow negativity to control you, even if you think the negativity is fueling you, it's like a fire. You think the fire, you're controlling the fire, but the fire ends up consuming you and all the things that you care about. And negativity is like that. And I don't know whether it's this social media age that we're in, right? You have to be able to acknowledge that the negativity exists, especially, listen, the more, I don't know, notable you become, the more, the more people know you, right? The more hate you're going to get. The higher you try to climb, the more some people, negative people, want to see you fall. Personally, I like seeing people do well, because when someone does well, right, in training, when they do an amazing thing from the training side or from the business side, I think, man, I can do that too. I can do that too. You know what? They just gave me an idea. They inspired me to want to do that, or to do it better, or to put my own spin on it and do it my way, right? It's not, oh man, screw that guy, hate that guy, blah, 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 blah. Don't get me wrong. There are certainly some people that I've run into that I don't think are very good human beings and I don't like. But I don't let them live rent-free in my head. And I see so many dog trainers doing that. And that's why you don't see me really mentioning people's names or anything like that, because it's not productive. I'm giving them energy. You have to dedicate your energy to the dogs and to the training, which brings me to the next topic that I wanted to cover. Social media and dog training, okay? What a lot of you guys don't understand, and these three topics that I'm going to talk about, the keys to success, social media and dog training, and then not getting obsessed with haters, right? These three things are all interwoven, okay? So what you see on social media, and it's hard, I know a lot of people can intellectually accept it, but I don't think a lot of people emotionally accept it. What you see on social media is a highlight reel, okay? It is a highlight reel, all right? So when dog trainers have a social media, especially short form content like Instagram and TikTok, and I know this tilted a few people because they thought I was coming at them when I said, there's a lot of dog trainers that you'll see on, TikTok, or you'll see them on, Instagram, short form content, like 10-second reels, 20-second reels. You're lucky if you even get a minute reel on there, right? And it's a moment, it's a snapshot in time of something that went really well most of the time, which is why they've decided to put it on TikTok. A lot of people can get confused into believable. All right, I gotta go closer. Sorry, folks. I thought I could get away with there. Clearly, I can't. Damn internet. I had full bars out there. Everything was perfect and went to hell. Anyways, like I was saying, beware of short form content on social media. Beware of short form content on social media. That is not the truth. That is not what every training session looks like. And a lot of people don't understand that. And there's nothing wrong with it. We're not even talking about it from a footage perspective. They get upset because they're like, well, mine doesn't look like his, and therefore something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with my dog. And that's not it at all. You're just seeing a highly curated version of those people's training. That's not real life, okay? So you have to understand that. And if you understand that, then you'll be able to take it all with a grain of salt. Yeah, that's a highlight reel. It's not a big deal that mine doesn't look like that all the time. I'm telling you, if your training looks like a highlight reel, and I'm telling you, world level trainers, like the top guys in the world, their training does not look like a highlight reel most of the time. In fact, they constantly have issues, right? Things constantly go wrong with their dogs. And they always, there's always struggles. Training isn't this. Training is like this. And hopefully you end up getting a little higher and higher and higher. And there's struggles. There's some sessions that I do, it's a shit show. And I have to go back and think about everything and maybe come at it a different way. Not everything goes smoothly. It's not all slick step by step by step and everything goes well and the dog understands exactly what I want him to understand and the communication is flawless. That is not how it works, guys. That is not how it works. So, understand, be very careful when you're looking at short form social media. Understand that you're not seeing real life. You're seeing a very small. The next thing, all right? Keys to success. I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. Nothing beats consistency. Whether we're talking about training a competition dog, whether we're talking about behavior training, whether we're talking about functional obedience training, nothing beats consistency. I see a lot of people, they get 3/4 of the way there because everything they're doing doesn't look like a social media reel, they quit. Had they just continued another 25%, right? Have they just gone another short distance, they would have got where they needed to go. Dog training is a marathon. It is generally not a sprint. So it's not good to look at it like that. Understand too that when trainers are doing demos and showing you something with their dog, okay, here's how you train a formal front. Step 1, do this. Step 2, do that. Step 3, do this. Understand that that dog's already been trained. That dog has gone through months, in some cases years of training, right? That's why he's able to do all those steps quickly and flawlessly, and he lures perfectly, and everything turns out exactly the way that person said it's going to turn out. That's not real life, guys, right? Consistency, remember, is you going out there and applying that training on a regular basis in a sequential manner, right? Consistently. That's the most important thing, right? So I see a lot of trainers that I wouldn't consider extremely talented, but I consider very hardworking, that are far more successful than trainers that I would say are really talented that don't work as hard, right? Because they're more consistent. And dogs respond really well to consistency, right? So I don't care, again, whether you're training pets, whether you're doing behavior modification, whether you're training for high-level competition, it is all about that consistency. It's all about getting out there, getting those reps in. Somebody, my freaking internet, I'm right up by the house here, so I don't understand. I guess the internet out here is just really off and on, so I understand that that's going to consistently impact this stream, unfortunately. Let me know, guys. So while we're taking a little intermission here and seeing if we lose all our, I know it's frustrating. It's frustrating because, I'll be talking, then all of a sudden it'll lag out and you'll see me starting to jump. Yeah. Yeah, the satellite does seem to have some interference. I've been watching YouTube videos all day and I've never had a problem, but it seems the second I jump on a live, all of a sudden it is a problem. So sorry about that, guys. I don't know what else to do. I'm as close as I can be to the house, and it'll be what it'll be at this point. There's not much else I can do. Anyways, so I wanted to get back to the 3 things. Okay, so number 1, don't get obsessed with negativity. Don't get obsessed with haters and enemies and all these things. These things don't serve you, okay? These things are temporary and they cause probably more harm than good, right? A lot of people were saying to me, with the success that I had in my last competitions, like this will shut those people up or these people up or whatever. And I was like, yeah. But at the end of the day, that's not really what I'm thinking about. I'm not like, oh yeah, like in that moment when you're successful, you don't think about the haters because they're not important. You think about all the things you had to go through to get to that moment of success, and then you think about how you can duplicate it moving forward so you can experience that feeling over and over again. You don't think about, oh, I showed so and so. I don't give a shit about so and so or whoever, right? People are going to be people. People are going to say negative things. I'm telling you, when you climb the mountain, whatever mountain you're trying to climb, in that moment of success, you don't think about those people. So don't focus on them on the journey. If you're not going to think about them at the destination, don't focus on them at the journey. They're only going to distract you, right? Focus on what you need to do to get to the top of the freaking mountain. And I can't say that enough. And I'm someone that's oriented towards being confrontational. I'm someone that's oriented towards conflict. There's a certain part of me that enjoys that, right? I'm not one of these, uber peaceful kind of guys, in case you haven't caught that vibe from me. I am not that guy, right? I enjoy conflict, right? So it's really important to not get caught up in that, especially for somebody like me. It's not productive. And I realized that a long time ago. So I'm really saying it's important. Don't get caught up on that. On the other side, understand short form content on social media has a very limited value, right? You're seeing only the best. You're not seeing all the struggles. You're not seeing all the behind the scenes stuff. And there's a reason why a lot of these guys, a lot of these trainers that have that short form content success, like they're big on TikTok, they're big on Instagram, you won't see them on YouTube because you got to train for half an hour. You got to show people stuff. You got to show people process. You got to really talk about what you're doing. You got to be able to hold people's attention for long periods of time. And in order for you to do that, you have to be authentic to some degree. Of course, you can do some fudging for sure. You can do some creative editing. There are some trainers that are still even successful in the more long form content at doing things like that. But people get a much better sense as to who you are in long form content and what you can do in long form content and whether you're authentic in long form content, which is why you'll see some trainers never make that crossover from the short form to the long form, right? And beware of that. Just understand, I'm not saying that it's necessarily they're bad because they didn't. I'm just saying beware of that. They're only willing to show you highlight reels. They're not really willing to show you the in-depth stuff that will kind of give you a real idea of how they train and their level of competency when it comes to dog training, right? And again, dog training is a journey of 100,000 steps, and it starts with one step. So just get your steps in, baby. That's the most important thing. Now, listen, I'm going to say this. There's a caveat to this. I see people all the time. I've been training dogs for 30 years. And length of time in an industry does not equate to competence, unfortunately, because there's a lot of people that I've seen that have been training dogs for 30 years that suck at training dogs and really don't have much business training dogs. And were never able to be successful at training dogs because they've been doing the wrong thing for 30 years. So consistency of application requires also some level of competence. You don't have to be the best, but you can't be a complete idiot either, unfortunately. That's just the reality of it. So with all that being said, my cigar's out because I had to move 3 times because the internet kept dying. Unbelievable. Someone says, do I know a trainer from Israel? Yes, I do. His name is Omer Ozon. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. Cool guy. He came out and trained with me for a few months. And hopefully I'll see him again at some point. He was a nice guy. I liked him. KT says, I looked at it when you won that you would have been relieved for all the hard training was finally paying off. That's right. Don't get distracted from the goal. Keep your eye on what works. Absolutely, indeed. And listen, here's the other thing. I know that if I lost, right, and if I lose the next time, there'll be a lot of people just really excited about that, right? They want me to. They really want me to. But I'm comfortable with it. And here's the thing. I might lose, right? This is dog sport, right? When we talk about dog sport, I might lose. In any competition, you can lose. I don't care how you know, well prepared you think you are, things can happen. But because I didn't focus on them, these people, because I didn't focus too much on them during the journey, and I didn't focus too much on them at my previous destinations, regardless of where I end up at the next one, I'm not going to focus on them there either. Now, I'd be lying if I said that there isn't a tiny part of me that wouldn't enjoy beating, certain individuals and, being the top dog at that point in time, or, getting the better of them. But it's a small part, and it's not a part that I intend to feed. I don't intend to feed that monster because, again, I know that consumes you. It becomes everything you think about, and it'll distract me from what's really important, which is training my dogs and pushing them to the highest level of success I can push them to. And when I focus on that, I can never be unsuccessful. Someone asked me, will I show Hurricane's puppies being born? Hurricane's puppies have been born. She has 7 puppies. They're doing quite well. I wouldn't have the time or the patience to sit there while a dog gives birth. They tend to always give birth overnight, and it usually takes them about 8 hours to get all those puppies out of them, right? It's never fast. They'll have like one or two, and then wait an hour and have another couple. It's not like a short process, and it's not much to see. Puppies pop out, dog licks them clean, and eats the umbilical cords and placentas, and on to the next one, right? So it is what it is. Yes, Chandra. Yes, exactly. 7 pup. I didn't tell you, Chandra. I just realized Chandra owns Ike. Chandra and Jack, they own Ike, which is the stud that I used. I really think that these puppies are going to fall into the category of my last live where I was talking about what are more nasty type dogs. I don't think they'll be nasty, nasty, but have that edge to them because Hurricane has it and Ike has it. So I think we'll have some good protection dogs. I don't think they'll be like I know there'll be some social ones in the litter, but I think they'll a lot of them won't be maybe the most social of dogs. So I think they will definitely kind of fall into that category of maybe a little bit less social, a little bit more aggressive. And it's nice to have a litter like that. It's been a while. I am Yoda says, what is the best socialize? Oh, one thing I have to talk about, guys, before my business partner Greg kills me. He's already probably yelling at his phone, but he didn't send me that thing that he said he was going to send me. So I guess I can be late. Shield Canine Ottawa is having a grand opening for their dock diving pool. So it's going to be an open house. You guys go check out their Instagram page, Shield Canine Ottawa, and they're having a open house tomorrow at their dock diving pool. Really big dock, really nice pool, brand new, just like ours at Shield Canine Guelph. And go if you're in that area, go check it out. They're offering a whole bunch of different programs around their pool. So go check it out. Really, really nice facility they've got going on there. And just like we are at Guelph, Shield Canine Ottawa is constantly growing. We're kind of, some might say, competing with one another to see who can grow the fastest. But I like that kind of competition. It benefits everybody. Did any turn out to be long coated? You're asking about Hurricane's puppies. So Hurricane's puppies would only end up long coated if Ike carries the long coat gene, right? Now it's a little early to tell, but right now it doesn't look like any of them are long coats. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of the puppies are, let's say, a little floofier than maybe like your average short coat German Shepherd. But as far as I can tell, none of them are actually long coats. So the long coat gene is a recessive gene. So unless Ike carried it, we wouldn't have any legitimate long coats. Yin and Yang says holistic. Hey, Haz, I've been watching your channel and love your training. I'm a trainer from Boise, Idaho. I'm primary handler for aggression dominant dogs, and I'm 5'2", 110. Love your work. Well, excellent. What a lot of people think is it's a matter of physical strength. It's not. It's a matter of mindset. Like there's times, of course, when physical strength comes into the equation when you're training those types of dogs. But if you set your training up properly and you're using the right tools, you don't have to be Superman to get it done. You just have to be smart. You have to have the right mindset. You can't be too afraid of the dogs. You can be cautious of the dogs, but you can't be too afraid of them, right? Because they certainly sense that, and it only makes things worse. So good for you. Let's see what else we get. When do we get to see the new pups? I'll make a little bit. I'll make a little bit about. I'll make a little video on the new pups. I'll probably show you guys in a little bit. Right now, I don't like bothering Hurricane. Uh, Hurricane is like all good mothers. She doesn't like people messing with her puppies. And I do the decoy work for Hurricane, so we're not like exactly bosom buddies. So she doesn't want me coming in there waving a video camera at her puppies. And I'm gonna respect her for now and just give her that space and let her really settle in. And it's only been they were born July 7th. So I mean it's been a little bit July 8th really. So I mean it's been a little bit, but I'm still gonna give her that space and really just let her get into that groove. And then I'll show you guys the puppies maybe in about a week. Somebody asked, are smaller females usually better working dogs? I haven't seen that to be the case. I mean, the size of the dog generally doesn't dictate the quality of the dog. It's just the size of the dog. Let's see what else we got here. Tear Shake says, any thoughts on Svalin 150,000? I don't know what that is, so maybe you can, if it's dog training related, I might have some thoughts on it, but I don't know what that is. So I am Yoda had an interesting comment. What's the best socialization for a puppy that isn't commonly used? I mean, I've said it before. It's not that a lot of people think of socialization as this thing that you let you take your dog through dozens of social interactions every week, and that's what socialization is. Like, meet this dog, meet this person. That's not what socialization is. Socialization is exposure, right? There's people over there, there's dogs passing by us. Oh, look, there's a slippery floor, here's some stairs, this is a sliding door, that's a shopping cart. Taking your puppy around these things, not allowing them to focus too much on anything or get too worried about anything or too excited about anything, just keeping them moving, getting them used to just being in the environment with all this stuff going on, you know, and just getting them neutralized to it. That is the key. Not making a deal out of anything. Oh no, he's scared of that garbage bag. Well, do I have to go and make a deal with the garbage bag? No. Like, I could show him the garbage bag half a dozen times. He'll probably still be scared of it, the odd time when it surprises him. It's just more about getting him out there and showing him, these things. Now, I've talked to some trainers that believe that when a dog is going through a fear period, and puppies will go through fear periods, some more than others, especially like German Shepherd, guardian breed, stuff like this. They believe that fear period's the time to keep the dog home and not take the dog out. And I'll tell you this, there's certain validity to that, right? Like, the idea is that, during a fear period, the dog is more susceptible to stress and all. Even if you try and run the dog by the thing and desensitize them to the thing that's worrying them, you're only going to make it worse. You can't make it better. So it's better to kind of just insulate the dog during that time and only take him out like when he seems to be past the fear periods. And I've definitely noticed that fear periods are a thing where, like, the dog all of a sudden will be startling at things that they never startled at before. They'll be worried about things they were never worried about, before. I don't happen to be a believer that keeping them locked up is the best idea when they're going through a fear period. But I've also kind of like, I don't believe that having them around the things that they're scared of all the time is the solution either. Because I've kind of seen it go both ways, where people really try to socialize, neutralize. And it doesn't make that much difference as opposed to the dog that was basically locked in the kennel, right? I see that, the dog's level of environmental stability and social stability is a huge portion of it is genetics. But I do happen to believe that you can desensitize with exposure, just not maybe make as radical a change as some people think you can, if that makes any sense. Someone says they thought cigars were illegal in Canada. My cigar did just freaking go out again. They aren't. Mina says, have you decided to start dock diving? No. Dock diving is not a sport that I'm particularly personally interested in. You know, I pursue already a sport with my dogs, but I do it with my dogs, if that makes sense. Like, I'll take them on the dock after my training sessions and let them jump off of it. Do I like make an effort to get the longest possible jump? No, because I don't really care about the sport in and of itself. It's just not my thing, but I can understand why people like it. Invictus says, hi, Has, can a dog display territorial, aloof behavior at home, but be more social in public? Absolutely. You see that all the time. It's definitely a thing. Velcro says, I brought my GSD today for a lesson with Ivy. Your pool is incredible. Thank you very much. As usual, there are the sad little snowflakes that are upset that I'm enjoying a cigar. I appreciate your concerns for my health. But don't worry, my health is my responsibility, not yours. So don't scold me on the internet. In fact, let me see a picture of you before you do. Emmett says, I've noticed that you sometimes end training sessions on frustration, like in tracking, not letting them get the food or letting them get to the last bite on the sleeve. It makes sense that frustration can build motivation. Does this have any use case in pet dog training? Yes, it can have a use case. But again, what are your goals in pet dog training? So if I have a pet dog that's really motivated, right? They're motivated to play, they're motivated to eat, which isn't all of them, right? But if they're highly motivated, I can certainly use frustration to make them excited for the next training session. And by that, I mean a lot of people train until like the dog doesn't want to train anymore. And having some sessions like that isn't wrong, right? But if I have a dog that really is highly motivated, I'm going to use that motivation, right? I'm going to use that motivation. And what I'm going to do sometimes is I'm going to end the session before the dog is done, right? The dog is going to be really keen, really amped up to work. He's going to want to do all the things that we're doing, whatever it is we happen to be doing with that pet dog. And I'm going to get into it, and I'm going to wait until I can see he's really, really enjoying himself, and I'm going to be like, all right, all done. Put him back in the crate or put him back in the kennel. And what effect do you think that's going to have on him next time I bring him out? It's going to amp him up. Like, he's going to be really, really excited to train the next time. Now, you can't do that with all pet dogs because, quite frankly, some of them don't care, right? They don't have that type of drive, that type of motivation that you often see in the working dogs. So you can't do that with them. That's not what's going to float their boat, so to speak, which is the problem with a lot of training, like a lot of training methods and stuff like this. It works for a certain type of dog, Jumping back to what I say about being aware of what you see on social media and understanding it's a show and it's a moment in time with a specific kind of dog that, has maybe done some things behind the scene that you're not aware of. Like, for instance, there are certain trainers that take all the collars off the dog for the reel, right? All the e-collar, all the pinch collar, or the dog will be wearing a collar cover with, a cute name on it or something, and you won't really know what's underneath that collar. And they'll show some stuff. And it'll look really good. And they'll have you believing that they achieved that picture that they're showing you exclusively with motivation, with positive reinforcement, right? And there are some European trainers that are big on Instagram, shall we say, that are, or and Facebook and all this stuff, that are, let's say, notorious for this, right? And they're doing some shit behind the scenes, right? There's some stuff going on that you aren't seeing because in their country it's illegal, right? And they're selling you on this positive training system that they have. And oh, look at all the amazing things my dog can do and blah blah blah. And meanwhile, they're not showing you the full, you're not getting the whole picture. They'll even come and try to do seminars like that, right? Where they'll pretend that all the success they had with their dog was a function of this positive only training system that they've got, when anybody that knows that they've been doing some stuff when the Instagram isn't on, right? That involved an e-collar, that involved a pinch collar, that involved, let's say, some physical punishment, okay? They don't show you that though. And I'll tell you this, anywhere where they ban the collars, this starts getting used a lot more, right? This and other parts of the body start getting used a lot more, because it turns out that you don't just need a collar to make pressure, right? Pressure can be made in a lot of different ways. The collar is simply the most elegant version of it, right? You can see that the mosquitoes love me right now. I got to smoke this thing a little more. So beware of social media. You're often not getting the full picture. Don't ask me about any specific names. And no, I was not referring, just to be clear, because I'm not going to be a hater. I was not referring to anyone specific. I'm not referring to anyone specific. So don't ask me names, because I'm not that guy. Unless there's a very specific reason to name a name, I'm not naming a name, because I'm not interfering with other people's modes of income. Listen, if people want to believe that that's how so and so accomplished such and such, by all means, go ahead, believe it. So I bought your book, I read it, and I'm going to keep reading it a lot more times in order for me to understand it as much as I can, so that I can help with my dogs with some issues he has. Okay, well, good luck to you. I'm sorry, I can't say your name. So there was I think it's Russian letters. I don't know how to read Cyrillic, I believe is how you say it. Tear Shake says, forget about my question on Fallon's probably unfair. They're a secret mix of GSD Mally Dutchy from US Guardian wrote about them this week in the UK. That's not a secret mix. I I literally just did that exact thing, right? Like I bred Chico and Juice. Chico is a working line German Shepherd. Juice is a KMPV Malinois, which means that she has Dutch Shepherd and Belgian Malinois in her pedigree, and then she probably also has some German Shepherd in there too, right? So it's literally that exact mix you taught. There's nothing secret about it. It's been done for many years. It's always being done, especially the Dutch dogs. That's what they are, right? They're herder mixes. That's why we call them herders, because they're not a specific thing. Yeah, they might be yellow, or they might be stripy, or they might even be black and tan, but they're not a specific thing. There are like 3 or 4 breeds in there, and everybody knows that, regardless of what people sometimes want to pretend is the truth. So there's nothing secret about that. So what you're describing is a herder. I've imported many and I've bred many, and they can certainly make some fantastic dogs. I don't know, Kevin. You seem to have a problem with prey drive. I don't know why. Prey drive is the drive that motivates any offense. If a dog is going to bite somebody, they're in prey. I hate to break it to you. Even a livestock guardian dog, if they're backed into a corner fighting for their life, then you could argue that that dog is in defense. But if the dog is actually aggressing forward and going to bite, that's prey drive, right? Prey, there's nothing wrong with prey. Prey is the drive that predators use to kill things. It's a very powerful drive, and it is the drive that is the foundation for, you know, let's say 95% of the quality bite work that occurs out there. If you got a police dog or a sport dog, you need prey if you want to be successful. Now, as a protection dog, you don't need as much prey, but you still need prey if you want a dog that has any level of offensive capability. A dog that's in a state of defense is a dog that is fighting for its life. They perceive a threat to their own health and safety, which is why they're doing what they're doing. It's a big show and it's exciting for people that really don't know what they're looking at. But for the dog to aggress forward and actually engage, there must be an element of prey there. Now, people like to call it fight drive or whatever else, and you can call it whatever you want to say. Would you say that, when a lion is attacking a Cape buffalo and the buffalo decides to fight with the lion and they have a fight back and forth, which maybe the lion will win or lose, that the lion is engaging in fight drive? No, he's just got, a lot of courage to go along with the prey. Some lions obviously are more courageous than other lions. Some lions will hang in there and fight a little bit longer than other lions will, and that's where we see differentiation across the individuals. This brings me to another thing, actually. Stop letting people in bite suits fuck your dog up, right? There's this thing now I see a lot of. I'll address this again at another point in time, but a friend of mine was saying to me recently, he was telling me, he had been to a seminar, he really enjoyed the seminar, so, no shade thrown at the seminar, but been to a seminar, and, an individual wanted to work his dog in the bite suit and whatever else, and, he told me, okay, the guy threw the bite suit on, and, he did all this crazy stuff. And you see a lot of it on social media too, right? Where they're doing all this stuff and they're getting on the dog and they're really putting a lot of pressure on the dog in the bite suit. And I don't have a problem with that. But let me caveat saying that by saying this, okay? I don't have a lot of problem with that if it makes sense. But you see some decoys doing some wild shit to dogs in bite suits, right? Like tons of stuff, like crazy stuff, where it's like there's no real possible gain for the dog from a training perspective. All it is an ego trip. It's an ego trip for the handler to say, look at what my dog can go through while remaining in the bite, right, on the grip. And for the decoy can say, oh, look, I'm such a badass decoy. I'm fighting this dog. Now, pressure is necessary in bite work. Don't get me wrong. It's 100% necessary, whether it's for a protection dog, a police dog, a sport dog, right? These dogs need to go through reasonable levels of pressure in order to build them and develop them, and also prepare them if they're going to be, potentially engaging someone for real, or if we're testing them from a breeding perspective to know what kind of quality we're dealing with from a genetic quality perspective. It is a necessity. But a lot of decoys, I find, take it too far. They make it about them, or the handler makes it about themselves, not the dog. It's really about them, right? And it's like no one's really winning here. And I have a saying, the decoy wants to really beat up my dog. I say, no problem. You take bite suit off. We'll make it a fair fight. Now he can hurt you just as you're hurting him. And let's see now. Are you so tough now when that dog's really got his teeth in you? So I'm not big on letting decoys beat the crap out of dogs, right? I'm not big on that. Even if the dog can take it, even if the dog can handle it. Remember, stress is a built-up thing, right? It might not happen. If you don't believe me, watch a lot of famous fighters, right? Whether it's Chuck Liddell, whether it's, you can name whatever famous MMA fighter or boxer you want to think of, like world famous. They all reached a peak and a pinnacle where they looked invincible, untouchable, undeniable. And then they started taking losses. And in many cases, those losses started to build up really, really fast, and they fell off a cliff, and they just simply were never the same. I've seen the same with dogs, right? Dogs that seemed invincible in bite work, dogs that seemed untouchable. They just had one too many rough sessions with a decoy, and all of a sudden you started to see the dog begin to doubt himself, or maybe he didn't doubt himself when he was younger, when he was in better shape, or maybe the stress just accumulated. So always manage your dog's stress levels. Be aware that even if the dog isn't showing visible signs of stress, right, and you're putting them through a banger of a session, that's not something you do on a regular basis. Do not do that on a regular basis because the chickens will often come home to roost. So, again, don't let decoys ego trip on your dog. I will never do something like that, right? If I feel like the dog is breaking, I'll immediately back off, right? It's one of these things where, again, why are we putting pressure on the dog? What is the result we're looking to accomplish here? Now, I'm not someone that plays protection. I don't believe in that shit, right? I believe on creating real intent in the dog, but I'm also very aware that the dog is biting a suit. He's not really biting me. And if I don't think I could reasonably do what I'm doing without a bite suit on, am I going to do it? Probably not. Kara says, hi, Has, do you have any of your courses on how to properly or best make use of the rising stem function on the FOB educator? No. But if you understand the principles of dog training as outlined in my course, you could probably see how you might want to use it here and there. Depends on the dog too, right? Joaquin says, what's your opinion on Sport Dog e-collar? Do you think it's a good first e-collar for a German Shepherd? Depends on the dog. I don't like the low end of the Sport Dog. I mean, it's probably the cheapest e-collar on the market that I would say is generally okay to use, but sometimes the low end is a little too high. And it can create a little more stress than I would like if in a more sensitive dog. If your dog's not that sensitive, no, I don't see a problem with using it. Rod here from Washington State. Learned a lot from your videos. My dog gets a lot of compliments thanks to your videos. I'm a first time dog owner, and wow, what a difference training makes. Thank you. Simon says, I'm new in the dog training world and I was wanting to get a green dog. What are your recommendations? My recommendations are if you want to get a green dog, number one, you better know how to train, right? Because if the dog's green and he's got drive, he's gonna be quite rambunctious and he might be a little bit intimidating for you to handle. Right? And keep in mind, you're not training now a small puppy, you're training a full grown dog. So if you have no clue what you're doing, I wouldn't advise it. It's not that it's dangerous. I mean, it can certainly be dangerous depending on the type of green dog, but I sell green dogs, and I'm sure some other vendors also sell green dogs. But again, just be aware you're getting a driven, full grown dog that's very rambunctious and probably doesn't have a lot of impulse control, hence the term green dog. Kevin says, don't grips come from defensive aggressive? No, they don't. Grips are a component of prey, right? Like you have to understand the reason why dogs do bite work is we took the prey drive in the dogs and we molded it to our own devices, just like why herding dogs herd, right? That's prey drive as well. It's a function of prey drive that we utilize. I'm not going to get into all the complexities of it because I could talk about that for hours on end, but prey drive is not bad. Now, playing is not something that I would recommend doing too much. And I certainly see people that play bite work a lot. They play bite work and they fool themselves into believing that the dog will engage or the dog can handle, doing some, let's say, bite work even with a different decoy. And then you'll see that dog often fall apart the second, they get the vibe that the decoy isn't playing. I've seen a lot of dogs been worked on someone else for God knows how long, doing all sorts of cool things in a bite suit and stuff, and then they come to me, and I just got a sleeve and a stick, and I just look at the dog and say, "All right, baby, let's dance." And again, I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm not hitting the dog. I'm not doing anything. And the dog's just like, "No, no, I don't want to. I don't want to play with you." Right? Because he knows I'm not. He gets the vibe. It's like, "Oh, this guy ain't playing. This guy's for reals, right?" And again, it's not that I'm doing anything. It's just that the dog's like, oh, he's not my usual guy. He's not doing all the little things that my usual guy does. Ooh, I'm scared because they only ever played. They never actually went to that place where things got a little serious and they're like, okay, I really got to put out that next level. There's a way to train in prey and even in play, right, where it can get really competitive. right? And the dog builds their level of resilience and their level of intensity in the work. I don't half-ass bite work. I need to see 100% levels of intensity. And I'm always looking to have a high level of intensity and pace in my bite work so that the dog is always developing and growing and becoming stronger and better. But, not everybody does that. Leopard Star says, do you plan to do secondary obedience course and how to teach the call out of the transports? Looking forward to the seminar in Ocala. Um, I might do a secondary obedience course. I have to get to it. You know what I mean? It's a lot of filming. But I'll say this: secondary obedience is very easy if you have primary obedience. There's not really much difference between the two, right? If you have primary obedience, you have secondary obedience. It's just that simple. But a lot of people don't have primary obedience and they're worried about secondary obedience. And that's a big mistake. Aram says, I'm sorry, bro, but I haven't had any luck with your methods. I tried the bonker, and my dog is still very reactive. Okay. Well, that tells me next to nothing. Number one, the bonker, by the way, isn't my method. It's a simple tool in my toolbox that I use. And, you're looking at dog training as a tool. And I guarantee you, just by what you said, I'm going to guess that you're probably one of the people that looks at dog training in terms of tools, right? I tried the e-collar. I tried the bonker. It didn't work. It's like, yeah, I tried a hammer and I still couldn't build a freaking house, right? Because it's not about tools. It's about your ability to utilize the tools correctly timed in the process of following a system that's based on sequential overload where you're slowly training the dog more and more and more from the ground up. You're focusing on the fundamentals. You're starting with the most important things and you're building your way up slowly, not just punishing the dog for non-compliance or not doing what you want him to do or doing bad things. That's not what it is, right? And if that's what you make it, you will fail. My Russian friend says, best phrase in your book. And he's referring to my book, No Nonsense Dog Training. If you want to learn how to get results with your dog or any dog, keep reading and we will make it happen. Indeed, we will, and indeed, we have. Yoda says, could you name any positive only trainers in Europe? Not that they are using tools behind the scenes, but I haven't seen any well known force free trainers in Europe. Um, I don't think there really are that many. There are some like famous in terms of like social media, trainers that are positive only. I guess you got your Zach Georges of the world. Um, I would question his ability to train just because he's a weird little guy, isn't he? Right? Like I'll tell you this, isn't it interesting? Like whenever you see like a guy that's like a force free trainer, they're always strange looking. You know what I mean? Like they always look like, you know, they're always like weird dudes. Like you can see it's not like just like a normal dude like training dogs. It's like always like some kind of like a weird dude. And there's a reason for that. They're doing something that's not natural. They were attracted to an ideology and they're attracted to pushing an ideology that's not natural. It's not natural for the dogs. It's not natural, period. And I think there's a reason why those types of people always seem to be let's say those types of trainers, but there aren't that many because again, are we talking about success? Like, are we talking about like, can they actually train a dog? Or are we talking about algorithmic success? Like the YouTube algorithm likes them or the Instagram algorithm likes them. Those are two very different things. All right. I'm getting behind here, so I'm going to move forward. Just going through this, guys. I don't answer all the questions. I'll just answer stuff that's interesting for me. What do we got here? A lot of back and forth in the comments, guys. I'm just trying to go through it. Jada Jess says, in your elite off leash obedience course, on the last session for far send away to place, why don't you say break? Instead, you praise them. Um, I'm not really sure what you're talking about. Um, you mean I praise the dog for successfully going to the bed? Sounds about right. Why wouldn't I praise them? To let them come off the bed? I certainly would not allow them off without a break signal, if that's what you're referring to. Also, have another new dog that's insecure and likes to stick close to me. It's making week 2 recall training hard. Any tips? Yes. If your dog won't leave you for recall training, you must go more busy places. So, like, there are some dogs that are more nervous and insecure, right? And they don't like to venture far from you because you're their safety and their security. So, with these dogs, the good thing is that you can up the level of distraction relatively quickly, because oftentimes, in a more quiet setting, especially when there's not so much stimulation, they will stay close to you. So I'll take them to like a really busy area where there's lots of smells and lots of, different things going on. And usually you'll find there that they'll venture out. Now, if it's a real nerve case, then they will stay close to you. So in fact, you must do the opposite and stay in a more quiet place where they're more comfortable, and then they'll venture off a little bit. But with the nervous dogs, don't be tricked by them staying close to you that they're going to reliably come to you. In some cases, once they get a certain distance, that nerve will take over to the point where the dog will actually go into flight, and they're not thinking at that point. They just blindly panic and start to flee. And if you haven't actually properly trained the recall, you've just been tricked by the fact that the dog's always maintaining proximity to you. Then you're going to find real fast that that recall that you thought you had isn't actually there, especially when the dog is in a state of blind panic, and you're going to be hunting for that dog for a while. Let's see what else we got here. And Festellar K9 says, my GSD is fully trained thanks to you. How do I now transfer this training, these commands over to another family member? Thank you. You must have a seance. All of you sit in a circle. You put the dog in the middle and you light a candle. And as right as the sun is setting, you must do this. Everybody holds hands, and you take the e-collar and you dial it up. You dial it up, you dial it up, you dial it up, and then you give it to the new family member. You pray, and there it is. Don't do that. But really, it's all a question of consequences. Your ability must be, you have to, like the family member has to basically have the ability to give the dog consequences, both good and bad, right? And what happens is usually there's one person in the family that's diligent with the consequences, right? They're diligent with correcting the dog when the dog, isn't doing the right thing, and they're diligent with rewarding the dog when the dog is doing the right thing. And that's what it comes down to. And the people the dog doesn't listen to are the people that don't deliver consequences because they don't need to be listened to, quite frankly. So if the person isn't willing to deliver consequences, both good and bad, and do so at a reliable and consistent, remember we were talking about consistency, in a consistent way, then it will not be successful. So for instance, my dogs don't listen very much to my wife, right? They like her, but they don't listen to her because she isn't willing to deliver consequences on a regular basis. And she's uninterested, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. They're not robots, right? They're smart. They know. That lady, yeah, she's nice. She gives us treats, and she gives us affection for really not doing anything. And she very rarely will correct us for doing the wrong thing. So listening to her is real optional. It is what it is. So if they're not willing to do those things, then it's not going to happen. Thank you. I will enjoy this cigar. Mark Faraski says, "LOL, too funny. Internet famous trainers. Better be careful, Has. You will if you keep at it, they'll label you internet famous as well." Well, I'm honest enough to admit that I am internet famous. But aren't we all in this day and age, right? Like if a dog trainer is well known, unless they're from before the internet was really a big thing, for the most part, they're famous over the internet. But I always say this, people are like, oh, like you're a YouTuber or whatever. I'm not a YouTuber. I am a dog trainer that happens to make content, but I'm a dog trainer first, in case you can't tell by the regularity of the my posts on social media. I'm very irregular with it because my primary focus is actually on training and competing with my dogs, and I'm really out here doing this, right? And anybody that knows me and has met me in real life and seen me work my dogs, I'm not like a lot of these other guys. Like I'm actually doing this. You know what I mean? And I'm doing this with real ones. I'm not doing this with, you know, a border collie or something. I'm doing this with real dogs, with real drive, and with a variety of dogs. So, and I've been doing this. I've been doing it for years. I just happen to make YouTube videos from time to time, and I happen to enjoy sharing my thoughts about it over the internet. But what I am is a dog trainer that happens to make content. I am not a content creator that happens to be a dog trainer. And some people have those two things mixed up. Which is why when I go to compete, right? My co-competitors aren't thinking, "Oh no, there's that YouTube guy Has. He's a YouTuber." No, they're like, "Oh, there's that dog trainer Has. I'm going to have to be on my A game to beat him because he's a real threat out there on the field," right? Not because I make YouTube videos, but because I actually train. Get Locked and Loaded says, "When we buy a puppy from you, do you hold the puppy until it's 6 months old, then ship to us?" It's certainly something we can do. However, so it looks like the CKC and the AKC, there's the Canadian Kennel Club and the American Kennel Club, are really trying to lobby the CDC to change the regulations for Canada down to like 3 months. I don't know if they're going to be successful or not. So it's possible that for our US clients that are interested in buying puppies from us, we'll be able to now get the puppy to you in less than 6 months. And we're really hoping that that does go through because, I mean, getting puppies to you at 3 months is no big deal for us at all. And we'll pretty much be able to give you those puppies for a regular price if that's the case. So we're really hoping that that does come to pass, but we're waiting to see how it all kind of irons out with the CDC.